Hi, this is Soussan here with some more bass tips and tricks. Now, remembering from before, I am trying to do this from a fairly early stage so that if somebody is a new bass player, they're able to pick this up and get some great tips from these videos. However, some of the things I'm showing are relevant to people of all different playing abilities, and hopefully there'll be a little bit of something for everybody here. So today I wanted to talk about something very simple, which is how do you get a sound out of the instrument, or at least how do you fret the instrument. I remember Jaco Pastorius was asked this, and he said he basically just drops the instrument on the floor, it makes a sound. We're not going to do that. We are going to look a little bit at this left hand technique. Right hand if you are left-handed. Yes, I got that right. And when you first pick up a bass, you figure, well, maybe I should put them on these dot markers, or maybe I should put them anywhere between these two lines should be good. Well, there is actually a correct place to put them, and one that has multiple advantages. And the best place to put your finger would be right behind the fret, but being careful not to have your finger spill over onto the string as it crosses the fret. So if that's a fret, and that's my finger sort of wants to be right about there, allowing the string to go cleanly over the fret. And there are a couple of reasons for this. One is if you stop the string between the two frets, you've effectively got a little bit of distance that you could actually push the string down, which would pull it out of tune a little bit, so that's not good. Secondly, it tends to give you more rattle at the other end, which is not always desirable. So for example, if I just play a note here, we can hear it's buzzing, it's rattling a little bit. If I play that same C sharp right behind the fret, it's beautifully clean, it's warm, and it's rich. It sounds really nice. So that's the place that I want to play this. Now, I want to practice this, and the easiest way to practice is obviously with chromatic notes using the one finger per fret method. So if I was starting off on a C sharp with my first finger, D with my second finger, D sharp, E flat with my third finger, and E with my fourth. Sounds nice, sounds rich, and practicing like that will eventually help you with all the lines that you play. So, a couple of related things as well. I think it's important. When I started playing violin, I was told to keep a flat wrist, a straight wrist, and I think that applies to bass as well. By keeping a wrist that's somewhat straight, it forces you to put your hand in the right position to use your thumb to apply the pressure to the strings. It doesn't need that much pressure, but obviously if my thumb is acting as an anchor, I can push down on the strings very effectively. So, hand placement being about here, and being able to play chromatically and practice this technique is really the idea. Obviously, as you go further down the neck, you are going to be dealing with wider frets, because they get wider further that way. So to start with, I would start around the 5th fret, or 7th fret if 5th is a little too wide. And here we come to another tip, which is what I like to call economy of motion. I'm going to talk a lot about this in the future. Economy of motion is, for me, that there's no reason to move a finger unless you have to move it. Basically lazy, but no, it's not lazy, I'm joking. It helps. There's no point moving a finger unless it has to move. If you don't move it, then the finger is ready for anything that it might need to do afterwards. And it can help you with your speed, and it can help you with your dexterity as well. So what I mean by that is if I'm playing chromatically, put my first finger down, second finger down, third finger down, fourth finger down. All four fingers are still down, they're not moving. If you start getting into a lot of this stuff, it's not a great idea, it doesn't sound great, it doesn't look good, and there are other problems that happen too. Now as I take my fingers off, they only come off when I need to take them off. So if I was playing a scale, for example, the fingers only really move when they need to move. So that's another technique that you could practice alongside the placement. Now, One other advantage of this, which I haven't covered, is if you have aspirations to playing fretless bass, at some point in time you're doing yourself a tremendous service, because if you learn to play all your notes and all your lines like this, you're automatically learning subconsciously to space your fingers in the ideal spacing, so that when you're playing without the frets, your fingers will naturally fall into the correct place on the neck. And so there are these two advantages to learning to play like this. Now, there are plenty of exercises that we could do to really kind of push it, but initially, to start with, I would simply play chromatically. If you wanted to play some scales, that's also good. There is another interesting one which I call diagonals, where you're playing one finger per fret and you are basically going from the G sharp here to the D and crossing over one string each time, and then bringing the first finger round underneath that and doing the reverse. That's a great exercise to kind of break your fingers up a little bit. This is probably not the ideal exercise to show you with this, but if you feel like you want a bit of a challenge, then go to it. And we'll cover some of those dexterity exercises in another video. In fact, that would be a good topic for one of my next videos. Which is enough to drive you mad. Anyway, for the time being, just practice putting your fingers down and playing with the left hand in exactly the right place. That's our tip for this week. I'll come back. Please, any questions, any requests, like my channel, like the video, and please stay tuned, and see you soon. Happy playing.